Welcome to the Biz and Tech Podcast. My name is Blake Dowling. I'm the CEO of Aegis Biz Tech here in Tallahassee, Florida. We are getting ready to move our office for the first time in 20 years. So thank you to everyone out there that has helped us. Signs Now, Target Print and Mail, Carlton Dean, Capital City Bank, and a gazillion other folks to make it happen. We're very excited for our new headquarters. We'll still be in Midtown. 246 East 6th Street will be our new home in about 2 months. So look for that. And today it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Mr. Fred Shelfer, CEO and President of Goodwill Industries Big Bend, to the show. Welcome, sir. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think everybody knows what Goodwill does, but there are so many pieces to the puzzle at Goodwill. And I learn more every day about what you guys do. So let's dive right in. What is the mission of Goodwill? And now that you're celebrating over 20 years with the organization, what's that journey look like since 2002? Tell us about
it. Well, people know one thing about Goodwill, and that's that we have retail stores. But what they don't see from the street is what our mission is and why we have retail stores. The reason we have those stores, and we have 23 of them spread across North Florida, those stores generate income to support our mission. And our mission is to help people overcome barriers to employment. So Goodwill is all about helping people go to work. Work is the single most solution to society's problems. If you got a job, you're occupied, it builds self-esteem, it supports the family, it supports individuals, it supports the community. So Goodwill is all about helping people go to work.
Amen. I was writing a little bit about y'all recently, and the memory of walking into your facility a couple years ago after the United States had left Afghanistan, and you and I waved at a gentleman and said hello, and you told me his story, that he had recently come to our country and our community and was having a hard time finding a job due to language barriers, and that y'all had given him one. And what a big smile on his face he had, and I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, actually, that individual was a real hard worker, and we gave him an opportunity, and he moved on from there.
Awesome. Very good stuff. So let's go back to the beginning of your career. You went to Emory up in Atlanta, correct?
That's right.
What was Emory like in those days?
Well, I started at Oxford, and when I got there, I said, wrote my parents, and I said, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, why I chose this place. But it turned out to be a great institution. I had some great mentors from Emory, and graduated from Emory in 1969. And if you happen to have been around then, that was when students were taking over administration buildings, et cetera. So it was a different time. It's somewhat similar to today.
I was about to say a little bit of that going on in 2024. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
That's right. But Emory was a great experience, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I lived in the Virginia Highlands when I started my career in Atlanta. I loved the campus area around Emory, real sharp.
Right.
So tell me about your early jobs before post-graduation. What was your first job as a kid? What was that first look of the working world like?
Working in tobacco.
Really?
Yeah, I grew up in Havana, Gaston County, and my father had a farm, tobacco farm.
Okay.
We grew wrapper tobacco, which is the outside leaf that wraps a cigar. Mm-hmm. And so you grow it in the field, and you take it into a barn, you cure it. It turns from the green to the brown that you see cigars
right.
in. and they hang it in the barn, and then some of the leaves fall on the ground. So at 6 years old, I was picking up leaves in a tobacco barn. And I worked in tobacco from age 6 to age 18. When I graduated from high school was the last time I worked in tobacco. And then the industry left Gadsden County and went to South and Central America.
Well, you never forget those early jobs, do you? No matter how much time flies. My dad used to put me to work in the back of his warehouse in Houston, and I used to have to navigate between the forklift drivers, which back in those days they had a kitty litter account and they had an antifreeze account. So you had pallets of both those materials stacked up everywhere. And my job was when the forklift drivers hit one of the pallets and cut open the antifreeze or the kitty litter, was to clean up the mess. And you have never seen a bigger mess than those two ingredients combined together, that green antifreeze and kitty litter.
Yeah.
It was like sludge. Whew. Yeah, it's hot out in those warehouses. Well, good deal. Well, post-graduation, how'd you start your career? What'd you dive into? I saw real estate was in some of your early work, and we can talk about that here in a minute. But what would you first do after Emory?
Came back. Well, I was at graduate school at Florida State, but I was 1A, and that was during the Vietnam War, so they were drafting people. I got into the Florida National Guard, went off for a year. But prior to that, my father and I were renovating houses, and we were buying houses, renovating them, and my job was to do the construction. To renovate those houses when we put them back on the market. So while I was gone, my father and some other gentlemen in Tallahassee created a construction company and asked me to join it when I got back out of the service. I did, and I did that for quite a few years, and that was Surety Builders, and we built homes for the government. It was 235 program. It was for individual ownership with subsidy from the federal government. It was a great program, and we built about 300 homes in the area over that period of time. Then I went into the insurance business for a few years. Still doing a good bit of real estate, started doing some development work, and then moved from a combination of insurance and real estate to just strictly real estate. And I had Shelfer Realty and Development Company for the rest of my career before I joined Goodwill.
Yeah, I've lived in Tallahassee a lot of my adult life, in between some stints in Gainesville and Atlanta, and I think it took my light bulb moment that you have a family connection and a business connection to the Summerbrook neighborhood. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was the last subdivision I built, and it's out on Meridian Road and Bannerman Road. And the subdivision is named for my two daughters, Summer and Brooke.
That's awesome. I think I was with Brooke and her husband, Hugh, and I think we were out at Summerbrook, and I was like, that's where the connection happened. So it was a pretty funny moment. We all had a big laugh at that. Hello, Brooke and Hugh out there in Georgia, if you're watching. All right, good deal. Let's talk about Goodwill. Of all the programs that Goodwill does, career training, having computer stores and car washes, giving folks an opportunity like the gentleman we just talked about. What's the most near and dear to your heart, if you could pick one thing that Goodwill does?
All of our programs are important, and not one thing fits all. So when people come to us, we try to deal with them on an individual basis. Try to identify their needs. What could we do for them that would allow them to move forward? So I don't really have a favorite. My favorite is the program that is successful with an individual. So it boils down to one-on-one. We have a lot of big classes and so forth, but for that individual, it's whatever makes that person move forward in their life and their career to a successful job.
Outstanding. I remember meeting one of the individuals that received nursing training at one of your locations.
Right.
And her sharing that experience to a large group and just busting out in tears. Just she couldn't keep it in, sharing her story of diversity, struggles, and overcoming all that and heading down the path to be a nurse, and she just couldn't be more appreciative of Goodwill and all the people that helped her get there.
That's a very successful program, and we're now teaming up with Tallahassee Memorial, and they're helping us teach CNA, which is Certified Nurses Aid Training. And the last cohort from that was in Tallahassee was 15 graduates, and Tallahassee Memorial hired all 15.
Awesome. That's great. TMH has a great footprint here in the community. So looking back at your career and your childhood, who would you say was the most inspirational to you? You got a mentor?
Two.
Okay.
At least I would say. One would be my father.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great man and a great father. Father's Day just being this last weekend, I thought of him a lot. I worked with him for many years. He and I worked together and did a lot of development together, and separate, but we worked together for 30 years, after I came back from college.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Emory at Oxford, Dean Fleming came in between my freshman and sophomore years. I was president of the student body, and he was the new dean, and we became lifelong friends. And he was a great man, Methodist minister, a PhD in philosophy and in history, and his son is one of my best friends today, John Fleming in Atlanta.
Awesome. Now you just mentioned what the campus life was like during that time. What motivated you to become or to seek the office of student body president? That's a lot of work.
Somebody asked me to do it. I didn't seek it.
It's funny how that works.
That's right. A sophomore came to me and said, "Fred, we want you to run." I said, I guess eventually I agreed. I called my mother up and I said, I don't know if y'all want me to do this or not. And she said, go ahead, Fred, go for it. So on my mother's advice and the request of an upperclassman, I became the student body president.
That's great. Got to follow mom's advice.
That's right.
Yeah, when I was at the University of Florida, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said I should run for Chief Justice of the Traffic Court. And while that sounds a little odd, you got to think at the time you had 30,000 students and 15,000 parking spaces. So kind of like Midtown Tallahassee today. Parking is always a problem. And this was after the Gainesville murders in 1991. So people did not want to park far away from where they live for safety reasons. So they literally had a team of justices with a chief justice that led them. And, sometimes you got to serve whatever opportunities come out there because somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
And speaking of service, you have served on the Goodwill Board of Directors prior to your time as president. I also saw that you served on the International Board of Goodwill. What's the Goodwill footprint like outside the United States? I know we all know about Goodwill here in Florida. Is it the same model everywhere? How many countries, things like that? Is it all over the place?
Well, it is, but primarily in North America. We have 154 individual Goodwills in North America,
Okay.
United States and Canada. We're in 30 foreign countries, but those are chapters and not members.
Okay.
They can attend our meetings and that sort of thing, and we work in those countries. We give them aid and in developing Goodwills there and the Goodwill mission and programs in those countries, but they're not members of Goodwill International. So Goodwill International has 154 members, like I mentioned, headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland, and it's run by a board of directors that has 16 seating CEOs and 16 lay members who are selected, at random that we think contribute to our organization. And you serve a 3-year term, and if they want you back, you can serve 2 3-year terms. So I was on the International Board of Directors for 6 years. Just got off a couple of years ago.
Well, thank you for your service. And looking at the history of Goodwill, I believe it was 1902 in Boston. Was that the
Right.
the founder,
Yes.
a reverend up there?
Edgar Helms.
So tell us just a little bit about his story and how he got started. I think it's fascinating.
Edgar Helms was a young minister, and he was thinking about the illustrious career as a Methodist minister, and the bishop sent him to downtown Boston. That was quite a shock for him. He was from a well-to-do family, and downtown Boston was a different place at that time. Primarily, immigrants from Ireland had moved into that area, and his congregation was really hurting for opportunity, for hope,
Right.
to access this new world that they had come to. And they found themselves kind of stuck in the inner city. So Edgar Helms, one of his quotes was, "Salvation may have to wait. These people need a job." So
That's wise words.
he went about trying to help the Irish immigrants and so he began by collecting things from the people that lived around Boston that were affluent. We call them donations today.
Right.
He took those to the church and gave them away. Put them out on a table, and people could come help themselves. It wasn't long before they were fighting over those things, and he noticed that week after week there was no change in the plight of his congregation. So he decided that method just did not work. Now, our federal government has tried the same thing, and it didn't work.
Right.
You can't give people stuff because it's just it doesn't last. It's not sustainable. So what he did was he collected those goods again, brought them back to the church, but instead of giving them to him, he said, "You need to fix these things, prepare them, paint them, clean them up, and we're going to sell them, and then we're going to help you learn a trade so you can get out of the situation you're in and move out to the rest of America and make something of yourself." That was the beginning of Goodwill. We do the same thing today. It looks a little different, but it's the
Right.
same philosophy. We teach people how to help themselves.
That's a heck of a story. So looking at your individual journey, a successful developer, insurance, what was your call to service to shift gears to become the president and CEO of Goodwill?
Well, we're blessed to live in the United States.
Amen to that.
I was blessed to have a good family, live in North Florida, which I love. Those things were given to me, and I've always felt the need to give back where I could and when I could. That led me to Goodwill.
Good deal. You mentioned family. Let's talk about your children. You have 3 children. What are they up to these days?
Having grandchildren. Summer went crazy. She's my youngest girl. She lives in Birmingham now, and she has 4 children. Griffin lives with me. He still works for Goodwill. Mm-hmm. He started working for Goodwill in high school, so he's been there longer than I have.
Wow.
He works at the Bradfordville store. He's a donation attendant.
He's a great young man.
Thank you.
I talk to him at least once a year when I see y'all at the meeting, the annual meeting.
Yeah. And Brooke and Hugh have 2 boys. The oldest just graduated from high school, and they live on a big estate in just south of Atlanta, where they have equestrian events almost every weekend. You know, Hugh built or was part of the program here for Red Hills for many years, and that's what his family from Scotland has always been involved in equestrian events.
Yeah, the eventing as a sport is fascinating. I remember taking a ride with him on the golf cart out at Red Hills and breaking down each area, each event.
It's pretty sophisticated, you know, when you get right down to it. It's a science, yeah.
It really is.
So,
and then him and Brooke got me a shirt from the Olympics when they were there a couple years later. Right. I still have it. That's the ugliest shirt in my closet, and I'll never throw it away. Thanks, guys.
It's a big piece of property that Hugh manages, and it's about 15 miles southwest of the Atlanta airport on the Chattahoochee River.
Good deal. You a big reader?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I'm not. When I get home from work, I'm tired of reading usually. So, you know.
I feel that way about phones and tablets and computers.
Right.
You know, when people like my wife jump on, the iPad after work, I'm like, I've seen enough screens for today. Well, good deal. What hobbies do you enjoy?
Boating. I have a boat in Panama City, and one of my developments was a high-rise condo on Thomas Drive in Panama City, and we kept one. Still have that condo, and I have a boat that I keep down there. So fishing and boating, we travel in our boat usually in the summer, and I enjoy golf.
Very nice. Yeah, Panama City is still the best. When I was a kid, we had a house at Laguna Beach down on the west side. I don't know if it's still called the West Side because it practically goes into Destin now. But back then, there wasn't a whole lot out there.
No,
there was a little donut shop, and by the time you got down to 30A, it was just Bud and Alley's, the Burger Shack. That's it. There was nothing else there. But, man, those were some of my earliest memories were running around Panama City. And when Shipwreck Island was built, that was a big deal in the early 80s, late 70s. I don't remember the exact year, but I love it over there. Well, good deal. Well, before we leave today, what about vacation spots? Where's one of your favorite places to visit?
Probably, well, I'll name 2. One is Scotland, because my son-in-law is from Scotland, and his family lives in the Highlands, and we visit there. Every other Christmas, we spend Christmas with them, and it's just a beautiful place. Not many people live in the Highlands. It's not very crowded. The towns are small, and you go into town. There are a couple of nice shops and a pub.
We got to make room for the pub.
That's right. And then the other place would be the Avocos in the Bahamas.
That's beautiful down there. We visited the Turks and Caicos for the first time last year.
Yeah.
You forget how pretty it is down there until you get back and get to enjoy it. All right, so here's a question for you. If you could travel in time, where would you go?
Back in time,
Yep.
I would go back to to the founding of this country. So there were so many great people that were around at that time. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, and so much going on in Philadelphia and Washington and
Boston.
and Boston, and we were creating this wonderful country that we have today, and that would have been an exciting time.
Absolutely. That's one of the best answers to that question. That's our reoccurring question for the podcast. We'll always get some interesting ones, but never heard that one, and that's a great one. Yeah, it's America. There's only one. It's the best. Good deal. So what could someone do listening today? How could they get involved with Goodwill? What's the easiest step for them to support the mission of Goodwill?
One of the most important things is to understand what Goodwill does, and that it's not a retail store. That's just the front. That's what you see. It's the mission behind that to help people in our community so that they can become self-sustaining. So understanding our mission is key. And then after that, if you understand the mission, I think you will be compelled to make donations when you're cleaning out your closet or getting rid of stuff in your garage. You would favor giving it to Goodwill because you know it goes for a good purpose. So if you give us your donations, we will put those donations to work for our community.
Absolutely. Y'all's footprint and your advocacy and reach with other organizations is also equally impressive. I serve as chair of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and today is my last day as chair. I wore the shirt, but thank you for all your support of Big Brothers Big Sisters. You're a big part of making those mentorship matches happen with our partnership that we have in place. All right, before we close today, we will ask one more question. We're talking about America a lot, and it doesn't have to be a political answer by any stretch of the imagination. But what leader here in Tallahassee or in the nation or in the world, who inspires you?
Zelensky in the Ukraine. Of all the world, there are some great world leaders. Maybe not in the United States. I'm sorry to say, but I think we'll eventually do well here because there's so many good people. But Zelensky has led his nation in this war invaded by Russia, and he has galvanized the Western world to help the Ukraine, and he has held that position while Russia would certainly like to take him out. He's there, and he's done great things for his people.
Yeah, the world didn't give him, I don't know what the Vegas odds were, but I think they said they'll fall in a week. And what was that, 3 years ago?
Right, yeah. Yeah, he said, I don't need a ride out of here, I need help.
Yeah.
And he's gone around and solicited that help, and people have responded, and they're still fighting a good fight.
Yeah, they are. He's a little bit of Ronald Reagan there, Wasn't he an actor early in his career?
He was a comedian.
That's right.
Stand-up comedian.
What a transition to service.
Good gosh, yeah.
And leading a country.
Well, you never know, but we talked about being tapped on the shoulder, and that it happens, and your life takes a different path sometimes, and so he's certainly answered the call.
100%. Mr. Shelfer, thank you so much for joining us today on the Biz and Tech Podcast. It was great hearing your story, learning more about Goodwill, and talking about all things. Shout out to Josh and Level Up Digital Media, our production team. Any closing thoughts out there from you?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. We always enjoy telling our story. we do a thing called Lunch and Learn, where we invite people from the community, and we quit doing it during COVID just because people didn't want to get together. And we serve lunch, and people come in, and we tell our story, and then take them on a tour. So we're going to start doing that again and tapping different people in the community to come, as you have done, and walk around and see what we do on Mabry Street here in Tallahassee.
Well, it's impressive. And the older we get, the more we take these moments very serious, these moments of commonality and these moments to celebrate organizations like Goodwill. So thank you, Mr. Shelfer.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening today. We'll be back next month with another edition of the Biz and Tech podcast, and we appreciate your support for 5 years. You have a great day. Be safe and turn on the AC. Take care.